We now return to Let's Play Coteries of New York. Let's rest. Kadir Al-Azmai, the Sheriff of New York City, is knocking at the door to your haven. The sight comes as more than a little shocking. If he had business with you, you'd either expect to see him already inside, or never see him coming at all. Yet there he is, on the other side of the peephole, patiently and politely waiting for you to let him in. You carefully unlock the door and face him in silence. Evening. May I come in? Simply stare at him. Your lack of an answer doesn't faze him, and your lack of resistance as he starts walking inside has obviously been interpreted as a permission. Once inside, he starts looking around as you cautiously stay by the door. You haven't really had time to make this place your own yet, have you? It feels like Langley's apartment through and through, a secluded study where nobody studies anything. Look at the books on the shelf, obviously meant to impress guests, not to be read. They reveal nothing about their owner, aside from the aching desire to be taken seriously as an intellectual. He picks one of them up and smirks before putting it away. The phenomenology of spirit. Wow, next to all of this garbage poetry. We can make a bet. If she's read more than 20 pages, I owe you $50 and a gallon of blood. The kind of place that self-professed hermits entomb themselves in to suffer. What? Whoa. What? I feel like this should have continued the previous thing he said. Considering how much you have to run around these nights, you probably only use it to shelter from the sun and rest, right? Even though he's obviously making an effort to come off as non-threatening, it's impossible to forget the first impression he made. You still see him as a fierce predator, trying hard not to expose his true colors. You sense a familiar fight-or-flight response as you struggle to find a diplomatic answer to his last question. If Kadir is bothered by your silence, he doesn't let it show. He keeps walking around, toying with whatever catches his eye. Eventually, he speaks up again. Watching any baseball lately? I had to guess you strike me as a Red Sox fan. Now he's inviting you to talk in a more direct manner. You attempt to overcome your physical reaction to him and reply as casually as you can. This is a little bit of a problem. Are they actually silent, or is this just not showing up? Because if this is not showing up, we got a problem. See, I don't know where this auto-saved, so I don't want this to be... Okay, well, I think I'm gonna have to restart the game. Well, unfortunately, that did nothing. So, we're gonna take a gamble. Usually the first one is pretty benign, so let's just do that. Maybe they all were just blanks. Your mind keeps going back to that night when everything has changed forever. Waking up in hell with a body next to you, spending a night in that underground sweatbox, unsure of what will happen next. That endless car ride. 3 strikes. A bloodthirsty crowd. That blade. A rebirth. A baptism by fire. A frightening executor who made sure the flames scarred your spirit. As you look into his face, you realize he's read the emotions from yours. Not in the mood to exchange pleasantries, There's no animosity in his voice. He's just stating a fact. Let me get straight to the point, then. He momentarily stops caring about his surroundings, turning all of his attention to you, and demanding the entirety of your attention in return. See, there's something I've realized over the years. In large part, I may have been hired just to look menacing with a sword, but my job is all about seeing through bonds and relationships. The Camarilla would be safe as long as its members adhered to certain social contracts, making their dealings and affinities plain for everyone to see, but that, obviously, remains a pipe dream. This is a community of born conspirators, overly ambitious gangsters and politicians, monsters in denial, all sorts of tragically broken individuals. They are driven by desires that make them incompatible with the Masquerade, incompatible with prolonged survival of the Camarilla, incompatible with the methods I use to operate. And so I am doomed to be like a cop, constantly insulted behind my back. maybe for a good reason, but immediately called for help whenever someone loses their tableware. Or like an Agatha Christie. I put a good accent on that one. Protagonist, outwardly assisted by everyone, but constantly lied to about everyone's pasts and motivations, even if my failure to solve the mystery might be the end of us all. He tries to sound like he's peacefully resigned to his fate, but it's easy to detect a tinge of regret in his voice, a voice belonging to someone who once had bigger ambitions than this. What broke him? So you see, for this detective, the why done it is far more important than who done it or how done it. When you understand all the players and their mutual obligations, you easily understand every crime. But of course, the kindred know it, so they devise ways to make my job much harder. Just like conspiracies between two unrelated actors that depend on scratching each other's backs for mutual security. Or they enforce a blood bond to make someone unexpected their thrall. A boss serving their employee, a rebel serving a tyrant, just because one is irregularly forced to drink another's blood. What has Sophie seen in you? What does the prince keep asking me? Why does the prince keep asking me about your actions? How come you're being pushed to build your own coterie so fast? You are surrounded by unclear motivations which you yourself don't understand. That unnerves me, and it should unnerve you as well. Okay, and what are your motivations? Finally, you manage to raise your voice. Kadir notices the effort and smiles softly. So, you haven't gone mute since the last time I saw you. Good. Well, I'm here for a selfish reason. I need to develop a rapport with you to better fulfill my obligations. The last time we met, I couldn't see you as my equal. Now that you've been accepted into the Camarilla, what choice do I have? I'd understand if you didn't want to see my face again, but I'm one of the faces of the New York City community, and as long as you're a part of it, it's going to be impossible to avoid me. Especially when I have business with you, and I do. As you might have guessed by now, one of my tasks is uncovering and understanding your bonds, and one of them might endanger our community. Well, that's not menacing at all. Who is he talking about? Possibly Kaiser? I mean, so detective guy here, maybe, especially because of who but he's doing his job, right? And he's friends with Kadir. He would know Kadir, and Kadir would therefore know what he's doing, right? Kaiser's the only outside force on this. Is this about Kaiser? Kadir shakes his head. That leper is bad news if you ask me, but who doesn't trade information with him these days? No, they're not the major player. He produces a file from underneath his coat and passes it to you. This is our troublemaker. You open the file and see some printed photos. You freeze up as you recognize the face and are overwhelmed by a flood of repressed memories. Jessica. Jessica Lowell. The woman who made the last few years of your life heaven and the last few weeks a living hell. Since she took pretty much everyone you knew with her after the split, you thought the transition to this life would be painless. No baggage at all. Have you thought wrong? You look up at Kadir expecting answers. There are some unfortunate rumors that you committed suicide after a messy breakup. So apparently Ms. Jessica here is desperately mobilizing everyone she knows to look for you. Turns out she's contacted a lot of people who might recognize you, including some in law enforcement agencies. Oh? Is that, the what's-his guy? The risk of endangering us is relatively low, but far from non-existent. Which means she must be stopped. Must be stopped sounds threatening. You dread thinking what he's planning. I'll arrange for you two to meet tomorrow so that you can straighten the situation out and say goodbye to the life you've forsaken. He'll arrange what? Your eyes must look like saucers right now. Usually these matters are left to my discretion and I can't think of an easier solution. A lost sheep reappears, takes care of unfinished business, and disappears, never to be seen again. Nobody cares. It's simple, it's clean. No contrived schemes, no unnecessary victims. It gives me an opportunity to learn more about you as I observe. When neonates interact with kind they use to hold dear, their true natures are laid bare for everyone to see. Of course he's invested in being kind to you, or he's making clear his self-serving intentions so that you don't start figuring them out yourself. Any objections? Any alternatives are probably worse. You shake your head. Very well. I'll arrange a meeting and drive you there tomorrow. Better come up with a load of bull that's easy to swallow. He disappears from the apartment, leaving you as confused as the last time he closed the door on you. God damn it. You need to think it through. Okay, I guess the game's gonna do that for me. For a long time you sit in your haven, lost in your thoughts, remembering how you once thought your world had ended with her leaving. Whining, sure, but seems like it was prescient whining. Okay. So that means we gotta do something else tonight. He said come later. This seems a little bit busy right now. Shall we... Wait a minute. Is this my stalker? So Jessica's following me because that's her picture. Let's move on to the nosy reporter here. Let's deal with that. There's a sleazy reporter from a gossip magazine sniffing around Sophie's haven. She could use your help with the problem. The streetlights filter into the apartment in a stark white glow, as if someone were shooting a movie outside. The art pieces display a tasteful expense entirely fitting the image you have of Sophie. It feels as if 1,000 sins have been committed on these premises, most of them under her benevolent hospitality. Sophie comes to greet you as you enter the living room, shaking her head. You understand that people judge me based on how you dress, don't you? Sophie looks at your clothes as if resigned to your sartorial limitations. I've tried to dress inconspicuously, he lied, because of the masquerade. It's very sensible of you. I suppose I should commend you for that. Sophie walks to the window and looks out, the streetlights playing on her features. She reminds you of a queen contemplating the unfortunate limitations of her subjects. You'd think that, as a vampire at least, we wouldn't have to worry about the vultures of the press. Unfortunately, when you have power and ability, there are always parasites trying to feed on you. Is there a reporter after you? Yes. Terribly persistent creature. Sophie steps away from the window and settles down on a sofa, a wine glass with red liquid in it. Blood, treated as not to spoil. You've become good at noticing the scent, even from a distance. She doesn't offer you any as you cautiously sit down across from her. That awful man has been stalking my apartment with a camera. But surely a vampire wouldn't show up on film. He's gone through my trash, talked to the neighbors. Please be a dear and explain to him that there's nothing for him here. Is this about the masquerade? Of course it's about the masquerade. It's a big deal for us, right? Indeed. You're learning. This must happen often. Must it? How do you usually deal with it? Everyone has their own way. Sometimes the problem goes away with a bit of money or sharp words. Other times you need something more. Am I in danger? Do you know anything about the reporter? Man, woman, young, old, anything like that? All gossip reporters look the same to me. Time for you to go. I have business to attend to. You leave the apartment as Sophie disappears into another room. You don't have a clear idea of the game she plays with the city's mortal and immortal power structures, but she always seems to be making a move. Outside on the street, there's a slight warm drizzle, the kind that gets under your clothes and makes you want to take a shower when you get back to your own haven. No reporters immediately jump out to you. Investigate the area. You start with the basics of investigative work. You ask the proprietor of the bodega around the corner, the homeless man sleeping in a nearby doorway, and the doorman of another building, whether they've seen anyone strange. Wow, D'Angelo is going to be upset that I am having fun without him. Detective work produces results. You get the description of a man who sounds like a reporter, although I guess, story-wise this now makes sense. I've been hanging with D'Angelo. I would just imitate what he does, minus the maybe talking to myself in a noir fashion. Older, overweight, pasty, and in bad physical condition. Professional camera. Once you know what you're looking for, it's not difficult. You spot a man who matches the description and follow him. You enter an alley, a dark, dingy space between two tall buildings. I know what an alley is. Once upon a time, a place like this might have worried you, made you think of muggings and violence. Now it's clear that the shadow on the wall... I don't know if you saw that. Now it's clear that the most dangerous thing here is you. The man you are following seems to realize this too. He holds his camera in front of him like a shield. Its heavy objective resting on his paunch. With a start, you recognize him. You remember the face, the shaded sunglasses from a picture next to a byline in some trashy paper you were reading to kill time. Something about celebrities, scandal, sex. His name is Frank Dougherty. You saw him on the street one time with a camera outside a nightclub, probably waiting for someone important to come out so he could take their picture. Hey, don't go around scaring people like that. I mean, I guess I could just get belligerent with him. But, maybe we could strike up a deal. I recognize you. You're Frank Dougherty. You're a fake reporter, right? I'm a real reporter, damn it. And there are a lot of scoops here in this dirty alley? You can't be a journalist if you're not willing to get your hands dirty. Do you live here? I'm working on a story about a local resident. Her name is Sophie Langley. Everybody knows her in high society circles. She's a redhead, pretty as a picture, and there were a lot of pictures of her through the years. That's the thing, in fact. Look at this. Frank pulls out his phone and starts showing you pictures. Some have been downloaded from news sites, while others are photos from the society pages of newspapers from past decades. All show Sophie. She has different clothes, hairstyles, makeup, names, but the face remains the same. So you're a stalker of some sort? Oh, come on. What the hell? So that didn't change. Anyway, come on, I'm just doing my job. So why does this matter? Oh, what the shit, game? Come on. Dialogue is broken now. And maybe it doesn't, but people are always interested in staying young. 3 words. Extreme plastic surgery. All the celebrities do it. Only her doctor is better than the rest. You look critically at the photos of on Frank's phone. You're looking for a doctor in an alley. You think the world's best plastic surgeon is working out of this alley? Okay, fine. I don't know what this is about. So how would you explain it? That's not gonna help, my friend. Let's not go down that. Unless we really actually do want to beat him up. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna fall for it's a hoax. Ancient medicines is sensational and is only gonna make him want to know more. The fact that this is a part 1 implies that we're going to possibly have more with him. Although, I don't know. Like, I managed to end the dialogues quite easily with some of the companions. So maybe we end this? I don't know, because probably say, I know Sophie personally, and then he'd be like, oh, really? And then, and then we're going to go down the dialogue of, can you get me to meet her? And I'd be like, actually, she wants me to beat you up, and I don't know if that's going to end here, or if he's going to run away, and that's going to make things worse. How do we do this? That's a hoax. Have you considered the possibility those pictures are a hoax? Sure, anything can be a hoax, but I dug up those old papers from the archives myself. I gotta have something usable. Intimidate Frank with violence. This is something we would do. The powers of the blood make kindred fearsome killers. Looking at Frank, you decide you can administer this beatdown without help from your undead nature. I don't know, we suddenly went from, we're now just gonna be psychotic if we do this. This might make him more suspicious if we give him a reason to. This is just kind of out of the blue, we're gonna beat him up. Alright. Oh, God, I wish I could read the actual dialogue. Nothing personal, friend. You punch Frank in the mouth. Perhaps the most important thing about your new vampiric existence is getting used to violence. You have to hunt, defend yourself. Frank falls down on one knee. This is not defending yourself. Please, don't. You smack Frank across the face. You feel his perspiration sticking to your skin. Blood wells from his mouth, and you have a sudden urge to bite down and drink. Sophie probably wouldn't appreciate a corpse in an alley next to her home, so you restrain yourself. Frank is on all fours on the wet ground. You pick up his camera and casually fling it into a wall. The telephoto lens breaks off. Oh my God, please don't! See, this guy is not gonna not show up, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna scare him away. So this one might help. God, I don't know, man. So I feel like we should have just gone down the dialogue tree of we know Sophie, and then this would actually give us a reason, because otherwise we were just like, oh, I don't know, you got some weird pictures, and then bash him in the face. That's kind of weird. Now let's just keep up with the I'm a weirdo meeting you in an alley, just randomly beating the shit out of you, because otherwise this implies that we're guarding the place. Oh, fucking dialogue, what the hell? Frank staggers upright and runs out of the alley as best he's able, leaving his ruined camera behind. You look after his receding figure, wondering if he'll have the courage to return. Well, he will. It's a part 1. Okay. I mean, yeah. The dialogue does change a little bit from the options there, so maybe that would have been different. To give us a little bit more of a story reason for why we were doing what we were doing. Because, yeah, otherwise, from his perspective, it's just like, here, I'm showing you some weird photos, man, this is crazy. And then we just punch him in the face. Like, what? It's kind of like the gangrel meeting. It's just out of the blue. Hi, I'm interrupting everything, and I want to be friends. Like, whatever the case, we'll have to probably deal with that again later, but I'm not pleased now with the dialogues bugging out here. I hope that's not going to be an issue later on. The fact that it happened twice is, I mean, at least we got to see the options, as opposed to that other time. It was just blank, but I'd really like it if it all kept together. Anyway, I'm gonna, end this one here, and I will see you next time.